The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 90. Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and today's episode, we are going to focus on becoming a client magnet. But first, quick episode from our sponsor. This episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show is brought to you by High Ticket Program. Did you know you're only 12 projects away from turning your six-figure practice into a thriving seven-figure enterprise? In the High Ticket Program Accelerator, we guide you through every step of growth and scale in a process we call LEAP. Imagine having a world-class project team guiding you and your team through each and every step of pain-free growth, all with the goal of becoming a seven-figure enterprise and moving away from painful, time-consuming business operations and client delivery. Get a taste of LEAP in your own business by downloading our high-ticket program core offer black book. That contains more than 60 pages of standard operating procedures for your business, including onboarding, customer service, graduation, financial management, and a lot more. You can get that for free by going to the show's homepage at 6to7.show. That's 6to7.show for your free black book. I am absolutely pleased to be introducing today's guest, April Lewis. She helps online service providers scale their business by setting them up as an expert in their field and creating automated revenue streams to expedite growth without creating busyness that leads to nowhere. April, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to get to talk to you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. All right. So lots of people talk about expertise, becoming the expert. What does that consist of? Like what would someone be looking for where they're like, okay, it looks like I'm now the expert?
Well, it's a lot simpler than most people realize in that all you have to know is just a little bit more than the person that you're talking to, because, it just takes a little bit of information. Most of the time, I'll give you an example with my email marketing messaging. I really don't teach a lot in email, but what I do is I help give them aha moments and moments that help them have the light bulb go off, and that then compels them to finally take action, which is the most important piece, right? So being an expert sometimes is not the daunting title that it sounds, really.
And when you're working with your customers, what do you find is kind of like keeping them from getting over that hurdle? What's stopping them usually?
From taking action, that part?
Mm-hmm.
Or feeling like they're an expert?
Well, feeling like they're an expert and therefore sort of taking different action than they would otherwise.
Most of the time with the people that I work with, I find if they just get a little bit of positive feedback on why they're so great, like the core of how I help my group of online service providers is helping them tap into their own unique zone of genius. And a lot of times it's things that they don't even realize. I talk about it and say that I help take your weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Let's say you like to talk too much. I'm guilty of that. But I feel like is a strength because it helps me be a really great communicator and pull them out of their shell and help support and encourage them. One of my friends that I work with, Elizabeth, she used to sleep with books growing up. She is a book nerd. And so we have built her business all around storytelling and how she's able to help people. And so it helps her feel confident in all these things that she thought were really weird eccentricities, actually stand confidently in who she is and how she can help people. And that's what I like to do.
Yeah. It does seem to take a bit of an outside perspective sometimes to really get into that. So how did you get into it? What's your path into helping entrepreneurs?
I think I'm naturally a teacher at heart. And I was a single mom for 20 something years of my life. It was just me and my son. And I never had the resources to be able to help anybody. We were resource deficient ourselves. And so when I started doing this kind of work just as a VA, and I was able to do it and succeed way quicker, like go from struggling to make $2,000 a month to, 10, 12 and beyond. And people were like, wait a minute, how are you doing this in literally a handful of months? And so it was just a natural process to start telling people how I was doing it, what I was doing, and then figuring out, okay, there is a method to what I'm doing. What is that method? And then, recording it and then turning it into a system that I can help others grow too.
Yeah. And I find that if you've been able to identify what you're doing as a system that's like, there's a power there in systems, because, people, we often, we're trying to look at other people for examples. And if we can't really see ourselves or see ourselves going through that process, it's like an interesting story, but it's not particularly useful. So, the fact that you were able to boil it down to something repeatable and then communicate it out, that's got to be a major part there.
Yeah. And it doesn't even take, I think a lot of people get intimidated and think, well, I don't know what it is I'm doing. Well, I'm the first to stand up and say, I don't know what the heck I'm doing a lot of times either, but I pay attention and I write it all down, and then I go back and I look and I figure it out. So it's not that difficult if you just pay attention.
Yeah. Well, and we as human beings, I think we're wired for pattern recognition. So if we have the right information, it's a little easier for us to do that. But a lot of times it's just chaos. And that's, I think, why it's so useful to have an outside perspective, someone like you to take a look at someone else's chaos, all the stuff on the table and try to find the information in there. So talk to us a little about some of the things that you do with your clients. Can you give us a couple of stories of transformations you've helped your clients kind of work through?
Sure. So my longest running one-on-one coaching client, her name is Jessica. She has a Facebook ad agency now. She was just an hourly VA when we started working together. She had been a VA for 2 years prior, and the most money she'd ever made was $1,000 a month. And she was stuck in a pattern of trading time for dollars, like most people are. She didn't, and she had, a buffet of services out there just in hopes of finding any client in any type of work to hit that $1,000 a month. She was lucky in that she had a husband made really good money. She didn't really have to produce a lot of income, but she wanted to be able to. He has a very dangerous job. If anything ever happens to him, she has 2 kids. That's very college goal oriented, and it's expensive.
It is.
So she was worried about creating that nest for herself. And I literally took her through everything I did to build my business. So the process I use at its core is finding your own zone of genius. I do that first and foremost with everyone. And then based on that, I feel like 3 core offers pretty much across the board that are parallel and related is the best practice possible for anyone. It makes selling really easy. I use a lot of country analogies because I'm a country girl. And so I always tell them that as long as you have 3 core offers, that's the best bait you can put out there. And then once you have them on the hook, then you can be like, okay, well, I can help you with this and this and this after the fact, but do not put all of that out there.
Yeah.
Because we are very bad with analysis paralysis, even not even making decisions about our business, but just looking at the options that we have to choose from. If we're, choosing to do something, it's really bad. So then from there, it kind of depends on whatever their zone of genius and 3 core services are, how much time they have to work on their business. So are we going to focus more on actual done for you services, or are we going to look at more affiliate marketing for more passive income? Are they a really great writer? Am I going to put them to work creating a content machine, or does all their stuff need to be more like reverse engineered and let them record videos and then create content from it because that's easier for them? So it kind of just depends on who they are. Some of the process I take them through, but
so I mean, that's going back to zone of genius. You're doing a little bit of work to kind of pull that out for people and get a sense of, okay, well, there are different business models for different people, and certain things are going to be, there's one kind of business that someone would love to operate, and for another person, they look at that business model and think that was like hell on earth for them.
Right.
They just don't want to do that at all.
Exactly.
So it's great that you're looking at those differences. One of the things that you focus in on is helping people come up with a business that does not wipe out their schedule, doesn't create unneeded busyness. What are the key elements there? What should people be thinking about or doing in order to not create extra busyness for themselves?
I love this question. It gets me all excited. To this day, I am one of those type A type personalities, and there's a list for everything. And so it's kind of morphed into this whole process that I even teach my clients now. And so everyone has an ongoing brain dump list for their entire life, not just their business, but their life. And it's all on one document, because I used to do it on a separate document, and that drove me crazy trying to manage all of those things in different places. And I'm just like, no, it's all going on the same one. Because really, when you think about it, everything you should be working towards should all be aligning towards the same goals anyway, whether it's business or life.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, no, this is all going together. And I make sure they understand the importance of just getting it all out. It doesn't have to be in order. It doesn't have to be any kind of reasoning whatsoever that looks logical at all when you first create it. And then once it's out and your brain feels clear and you can actually think and have some clarity, then you organize it by category. And then once you have the categories organized, then you organize it by priority. And if you only have so much time, I'm really good with boundaries, and I live by my Google Calendar, and I only work a max of 6 hours a day, because if I go over that, something is going to not have good quality. And I know that it's a boundary. And so I don't schedule more than 6 hours of work. It doesn't matter what goes off the rails. It doesn't matter what happens. You're going to get 6 hours of me that's good, and that is it. Now, other people have different boundaries.
Sure,
and
of course.
different recommendations with them, but for me, that's mine, and I know what it is.
Yeah.
And so, so with the brain dump doc, once you have it by category, then when you're prioritizing, especially if they have limited time, because I work with a lot of people who are moms and wives, and some of them even have regular 9-to-5 businesses or jobs still.
Yeah.
And so their time, they might have an hour a day to put towards their business, and that's it. And sometimes that's at 1 a.m. when they're not their best focused, And so the first thing we focus on is, in that list of priority for each of these categories, what's the moneymaker? What's the thing that's going to move the money needle for you furthest? Because that's going to drive everything. That's going to be able to give you more time by being able to hire a VA, or let go of some hours at your job, or something like that. So what's going to move the money needle furthest in this short amount of time? And that's how you put it into your Google Calendar for what you need to work on today.
Nice. That's a really good system. Yeah. That's a great system. It's funny, as you were describing that, I was like, because right here on my board is like a to-do list behind me here. And I've got things broken down by ABC prioritization, a number of hours it would take, and who I'm going to delegate it to if it's not me. So I'm like, oh, good. I'm doing some of that stuff. I'm on the right track.
Absolutely.
Very good. Excellent. I like how you focused in on understanding what the boundaries are for what you can do. I mean, first of all, it's very cool to hear you say, like, look, you're going to get 6 hours of good work at me, and that's it. Because I think that a lot of people feel, I don't know, like a bit of shame from this culture of like crazy overwork. There's so many people out there talking about hustle. And if you're not, hustling every minute of the day, you're being out hustled and you're not worth it. And I hate that culture. It's so self-defeating. And I think it's really mature to be able to say, this is my work style. This is what I do well. And this is what I don't do well. And I can't be everything to all people. And I've got to understand how I'm going to be able to work best and stick with it.
Well, let me, in the interest of full disclosure, say that there were at least 12 to 18 months at the beginning where I worked 18-hour days, because I was just trying to hit like $2,000 a month. That's what I had to do as the bare minimum.
Sure.
And so sometimes it's just part of the process, being able to get your footing underneath you to be able make those calls about yourself, but something happened halfway through. Like, this is my 6th year in business now, and 3 years ago, close to 4, I found out I have Hashimoto's disease. And so for me, if I don't recognize those boundaries, if I don't just accept that it's okay that this is me and this is what I can do, then it starts to really mess a lot of things up. So
yeah, I'd imagine. I mean, in some people, there are literally health boundaries like that, and then for others, I think the thing is that eventually there will be health boundaries like that. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, every one of us is going to be in some position where, you know, our body will shut us down, you know, if we overdo it. It's just the way it goes, I guess. But still, I think it's a really good planning concept to understand, you know, what you're capable of doing and stick to it, and not be forced or pushed into other stuff. And to say, like, one of the things I love that you said is, like, I don't care if everything falls apart. Like, it's 6 hours. That's all you're getting out of me. And that's a really healthy, approach. I mean, I tell my team all the time when we feel like we're getting overloaded, you know, like, hey, we're not curing cancer here. No one's going to die. Like, you know, things are going to be okay. We take care of ourselves. That's the important thing. That's awesome. So as you are finding clients that you're working with, what are the typical pain points that you're seeing? Are they typically you know, not earning what they should? Are they typically just working harder than they should? What's the usual, you know, if an ideal client of yours is walking down the street, what do they look like?
So that's a 2-part answer, I think. I have 2 group programs that serve a little bit different of an online service provider base. And it ended up coming about just through that whole process of writing out how I help people, like what worked for me and what's worked for them. Because, again, full disclosure, I have no training to do what I do whatsoever. My training is in the trenches.
Yeah,
that's how I know it works. So so everything that I figure out, it's literally me figuring this crap out on my own. But
by the way, I wouldn't say that's no training. You might say that's no formal training, but that's some pretty darn good training in the trenches.
Yeah, it is. And I'm one of those hard-headed kind of people where that's actually a good style for me anyway, so I'm okay. But, so I have what I call Raymaker Labs, and those people are the ones who have probably been in business for less than a year. They are struggling to hit $2,000 a month, that's pretty much the first, like, barrier that a lot of people hit as an online service provider, because that's the point at which everybody is trading dollars for hours, and you can only work so many hours a day, and that is the income ceiling for that level.
Yeah.
Like, across the board, that's right around there is it. That is a huge part of my audience. And so for them, a lot of it is they don't have those 3 core services. They don't know what their zone of genius is. They feel like they have to be a Jack or Jill of all trades to all people. They feel like they have to work with everybody, not have any boundaries on quality of clients. And they don't get paid enough for what they're worth. They don't understand any of the value they bring to anything. They have no system set up usually. There's a lot of foundational stuff that goes on with that group of people that I help. Yeah. And even just a few simple tweaks to some of that stuff most of the people that I help within a month are already doubling their income, and within 3, another double, just by putting some of those things in place. And it's a really great thing to, like, watch them light up and be like, oh my gosh, this is really simple. And I'm like, I know. And then the other group of people I really help are the ones who have gotten past that. They're making on average $3,500 a month. They know that they can make more. They know what their value is. They like doing a certain kind of thing, working with a certain type of client, and they have some more time freed up. They probably have some help that they've brought into their business. Yeah. And so with them, it's more a process of, okay, so let's take everything that's working and optimize that, and then throw in some other things because of where you're at in your business that are going to help you add way more and make this thing really go stellar for you. So
nice.
Those are 2 groups that I work with.
Yeah. So there is like step up essentially process that's going on as people are focusing on different things that they're putting in place. That's great.
When I created it, it was not an intent for that to be a natural sales process from one product to another with me.
Yeah.
But it ended up being that way, and I love it. Like, it makes my job really easy.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I totally appreciate that, because you know, that's what we tell people to do, is we tell them to make sure there's a continuity of flow to maximize the time that you're working with clients. And so it's great that you've landed on that. That's great.
Yeah.
So last question for you. As you're kind of doing this in a group format, is that my understanding? Can you talk us a little bit through the process, the dynamic of how that works? How do you run a group program, and what are some of the things that you find are effective in communicating with multiple clients at the same time?
Okay, that question's gonna make me think a little bit more. So, only because I want to like organize my thoughts before I talk. So, sure. I actually just made that decision recently because I've worked a lot with one-on-one clients. I've worked in groups. And everybody buys too many resources that they don't implement. Everybody, who you are. That's one of the biggest things people do. And they also, you know, we are not made to be solitary creatures at all. And so I noticed the groups have way more success rate, even just their own mental, how they feel about the content or what they're doing. Even if they're not making great progress, they still mentally are in a better space just because they're in a group. There's accountability, there's motivation, there's a lot of things you don't get if you're on your own. And so especially the group that's the 2000 and under group, they're the hardest ones to get to take action and motivate and see change. Because what happens is they get lost in the weeds and they don't see at all how any of all these tasks is getting them anywhere. And it's not supposed to, honestly, because you're growing so many things at once. Usually you can't see the path out. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll toil for months, and then all of a sudden you'll jump 6 steps ahead instantly. And you're like, what just happened? Well, you've been busting your butt for 6 months. So that's why. But they don't realize it, you know? And so with the group, I just decided my self-study, which is the Raymaker Labs, alone, people were getting nowhere. But that's like my lowest like service thing. I was like, how can I do this so that because I know it makes a difference. So I just decided it needs to be a group just like the high ticket offers a group. And it makes a difference. And so and the dynamic of it is I give them, they have all the like lessons in advance. Yeah. And I want to make sure when I'm working with them that I'm helping them get over the humps where they're stuck. I don't want to go over the lesson materials with you. That is the worst waste of my time for you. You're not going to you can read the PDF. You can watch the video. Come to me with the questions. Come to me when you're stuck. Yeah. And so that's how I have it set up. I tell you what lessons to work on. The homework's there. When you're stuck, that's when you come to me. So the calls, whether it's the low ticket offer or the high ticket or whatever, the calls are hot seats. It's okay. So I did the lesson. I did what you said in Slack, and I'm still struggling with this part. And so everybody on the call, even the peers in the group, we have them put themselves on mute. They can't talk, and we talk. I usually let everybody else talk first, and then I end it, and then they have actionable steps. They come back on, make sure they have clarity on whatever it is, and then it moves them forward.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. You know, the thing that you said, I want to like affirm in the things that we've seen as well, is that group programs are more successful generally than working on your own. They just are. And a lot of people don't believe it because they feel like moving from one-on-one coaching back to group coaching is a step backwards. It's almost like they're not serving their clients as well. We have found that to be the opposite. Like there's something about, like you said, we're people. We want to be around other people, and we want to leverage the motivation, the energy, the strength, the experience of other people. And I mean, you have to plan that right. It sounds like you've been very specific about the things that you've put in there in order to encourage that dynamic. You can't doesn't just happen magically, but done right, it is far more successful than in one-on-one. So that's great. That's great that you've made that switch over.
Yeah, and it's also a win-win. And I know this is maybe is not as value driven as all the rest of the chat we've had today, but they pay less money, and so I can help more people, and I make more money.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's a win-win. Right. Absolutely. That's great. Well, April, this has been a really great conversation. Unfortunately, we're out of time. You've been really gracious with your time to let us interrupt you in the middle of your day and chat. So thank you very much. One last question before we go. As people who listen to you, they want to connect with you, learn a little bit more about what you do. What's a great place for them to start doing that?
Sure. Well, I would go to Instagram. I'm kind of focusing a lot of my energy there lately. So if they want to find me on Instagram, that would be great.
Okay, great. And is there anything that you've got that would be sort of a good first step for folks as they're getting to know you and the work that you do?
Sure. So if you go to my homepage, I have a freebie that's called Become a Client Magnet that I've gotten rave reviews over. It's a 1-hour training. It's pretty in-depth. It goes through the whole pre-discovery phase, how even that part can get you more clients.
Okay.
And higher paying clients.
Awesome. Excellent. We have that link on right below the video and on the show notes page. If you're listening to that, if you're out and about listening, come on back to the show notes page and connect with April and grab that training. Thank you so much. Gracious offer. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being with us. And thank you for being with us on the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. And just a quick reminder about the free high-ticket program Core Offer Black Book. Contains more than 60 pages, standard operating procedures on how to run your coaching, consulting, or expert-based service business. You can download that for free at the show's homepage, 6to7.show. That's 6to7.show for your free Black Book. See you on the next episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Make it happen. Bye-bye.